morning. How are you guys doing today? I am so glad to see you here. We've got Dexter on the floor waiting for story time. He's already had a conversation with Frances, and he kind of scared her a little bit because he jumped up to give her a kiss or give her a nip. We didn't know, so we kind of backed her off, and she was a little bit nervous, weren't you? But that's okay. You don't even have to worry. Dexter is so sweet. Now he's sitting on a pillow at my feet. I think he's jealous because he can't get up. I think he's jealous of you because he knows that I love you so much, and then when he sees me playing with you, he just doesn't know what to do. What's in your mouth? What is that? Show the kids. I don't think you should have that in your mouth. Can you even talk? All right, let me pull it out. There we go. What is it? It's a puzzle piece. I was working last night with Mr. Colby on the puzzles. Oh, Mr. Colby has a puzzle out. I don't know if you've ever done a jigsaw puzzle, but he has a puzzle out there, doesn't he, with 1,000 pieces. 1,000? I didn't know we were doing 1,000. Yes, it's got 1,000 pieces. And he has been working forever. Mrs. Colby's even helped him a little bit. And Frances has been crawling around in the puzzle, seeing if she can find any pieces. But we probably shouldn't move him away from the puzzle because we don't want to lose one. There's nothing worse than getting a puzzle finished and having one piece missing. I'm going to put that over here. Is that all right? Yeah, I'll take it right back over when we're done. Well, that would be nice. Did you say good morning to the kids? Good morning, everybody. Did you sleep good last night? Yeah, I slept really good. I get all tucked in my shell, and then Mrs. Colby puts me on the couch, so I'm all soft and cozy. Then I go to sleep. You were snoring. I don't snore. No, I do not snore. I could hear you. I think that's Mr. Colby. I don't think I'm snoring. Maybe Dexter. No, it was you. Frances, I do not think I snore. I hope not. That would be terrible. Well, it was keeping me up. Well, I'm sorry. That's okay. So what do you have in your shell? I noticed another collection from somewhere in the house. You're finding things. Yeah, you won't believe it. I don't know what they are, but they look so cool. Well, let me see what they are. Bend over. Ugh. Oh. Ooh, say ooh. Ah. That's cool. Do you know what it is? No. I thought it might be a piece of candy, but when I licked it, it did not taste good. Well, it's not a piece of candy. This is a little starfish out of the water at the beach. You've never been to the beach. It lives in the water at the beach. Yep, it's at the beach. And you can pick these up if you find them. Mrs. Colby bought these at a store, but you can pick them up. Oh, here's Dexter. I wish you could see him. He's coming to smell the starfish. That is not a toy. I think he thinks everything's a toy today. Well, I am not a toy. You cannot nip at me. Dexter's just looking right at you. I know. I think he might like me. Well, I hope so. What else do you have in your shell? Puzzle piece, a starfish. Oops, say it again. Ooh, ah. Well, Frances, that is cute too. Yeah, it's so cute. It's kind of spiky. It was poking me in my shell. Well, it is kind of spiky and pokey. They're very delicate. Like if you drop this on the floor, it could break. Oh, I would never drop it. I tucked it way down in my shell for protection. Are you still looking at me? He is. Well, this is very beautiful, and these you can also find at the beach. I don't think we can go to the beach, but maybe sometime before we go back, maybe this summer, I could take you out so you could see what the beach looks like before we go back to the library. Yeah, I would love to go to the beach. I don't have a bathing suit. Well, I don't think you would need a bathing suit. I would probably keep you in a little stroller. I don't know if you'd want to crawl around the sand. It's awfully hot in the summer. What is sand? Boy, she's got a lot to learn, doesn't she, at the beach this year? We'll take a little sand pail and I'll show you sand. I don't think I'm going to put you in the water. Why not? It might be a little scary. The waves are kind of high and I don't want you to get wet. I can still go. Yeah, I think what I'll do is put you maybe in the wagon and pull you out there and you can look and we'll go for a walk. Oh my gosh, that would be so fun. Can we go tonight? Well, I don't think we're going to go tonight. I'm not sure the beaches are open yet. But this summer, I will take you out there before we all go back to the library. Yeah, This has been a really great vacation with you. Maybe I can come during the year. I think you will. You really have never come home with me very often, only sometimes. Yeah, you know what a really great thing is? I got to ride in the car. It goes super fast. And I got to wear, you won't believe it, wait for it, a seatbelt. I love it. I love wearing a seatbelt. We did. We kind of pulled the seatbelt across and strapped her in so she could ride home safely, didn't we? Yeah. Sometimes Mrs. Colby takes me for a ride and I get to wear the seatbelt again. It is fun. It's one of her favorite things. I don't know. What else is in here? One more thing. Oh, this is like a type of a little sand dollar. These are very delicate too. I thought it might be a cookie, but you can see when I crunched on it, hard as a rock. Yeah, this is not a cookie, and it would not taste good. And you also could break this if you dropped it. Well, I will never drop it, but I love looking at it. It was so much fun. There's a lot of shells in there. Well, they are a lot of shells, and now you know what these are. Yeah, super fun. Well, we're going to read a book today called Wallace's List. List? Yep, that's when you put things in a row. And Wallace cannot do anything without putting it on a list. What? I know. He makes lists all the time, and he's very sequential, and he always follows his list. And then he meets a friend who kind of makes a change. That looks like a really great book. It is a really great book. We're going to read it today. Well, thanks for coming in and bringing us always little surprises. I love it. I love you guys. I miss you guys. Mwah. You can give them a kiss. I know. You're so sweet. Frances is so loving and caring. She always snuggles. She loves to snuggle at night, don't you? Yep. I love it. Well, and we rub her little feelers, antlers. And then she loves to have her chin rubbed. All right, that tickles. Stop, 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 stop. And we pat her shell, and she stays tucked in. And she is a good and sweet little girl. I'm going to put you down, though. I don't want to get put down. Oh, I'm going to put you in your shell, take a little snoozy, or you can listen. I think I'm going to listen. All right, we're going to put you right in here. I'll leave your eyes out. We'll put you right here so you can see the pictures. And we're going to read Wallace's List. It's written by Barbara Botner and Gerald Kruglich, illustrated by Olaf Landstrom. And there's Wallace. And if we look on the back of the book, there's no blip, but there is a picture that gives us a little clue what might happen in the story. Here's the title page again. Has the illustrator and the author and the title of the book. And here we have the little information page, and we have the, dedication page, sorry. All right, here we go. I always try to turn so I can show the pictures and read. I have trouble doing that. Wallace, a mouse, could do almost anything that is, as long as he had a list. He kept a list of all the clothes he had in his closet. That way he could get dressed in the dark and everything would match. Wallace had lists of pets he would like, stories he loved, and exciting weather such as thunderstorms, hailstorms, and blizzards. And you can see all of his lists up on the wall. Well, when Wallace woke up, he wrote a to-do list every morning. That morning it read, number 1, water the plants. Number 2, take a walk. So Wallace watered all his plants, and then he rang for the elevator. "Hello, my name is Albert," announced Wallace's new neighbor. Wallace really would have liked to say, "Hello, my name is Wallace," but saying hello was not on his list. Wallace wondered what Albert was like. So if it's not on his list, he can't do it. So he couldn't even say hi to Albert, a new person. Well, the next to-do list, Wallace wrote, number 1, say hello to Albert. Number 2, laundry. So Wallace introduced himself to his neighbor. Would you like to listen to some music?" said Albert. I have to do my laundry," Wallace explained. Laundry is laundry, said Albert, but music is life. Wallace thought of Albert as he washed his clothes. He watched him tumble around in the washing machine. When Albert called out, "Hey, I'm off to paint some ducks," Wallace wished he had put painting on his list. So he can't just take off and do things. He has to have it on his list. Instead of putting down his laundry and going, "Hey, I'm coming with you. I'm going to go do ducks too." Well, later that afternoon, Wallace saw Albert's painting in the hallway. Something had gone wrong. Wallace knocked on his door. Where are the ducks?" "Oh, I changed my mind," Albert boasted. Wallace was dumbfounded. "Changing my mind is kind of an adventure," Albert explained. "I don't like adventures," said Wallace. "An adventure can be anything that isn't planned for." "You mean you didn't have that on your list?" said Wallace. "Exactly," said Albert. "Do you ever use a map?" Wallace continued. "I have lots of maps." "I don't need maps," said Albert, "because wherever I go, there I am." And instead of painting ducks, he decided to paint an airplane. And Wallace cannot understand this. How can you just take off on the spur of the moment and do something if it's not on a list? "But what if you get lost?" "Oh, being lost is an automatic adventure," cried Albert. "Well, suppose you get lost and you fall down and hurt yourself." "Well, I just pick myself up and keep going," said Albert. "When I get in an accident, it makes me feel better to write it on a list," said Wallace. Wallace showed Albert list number 3, accidents that have happened to me. Number 1, bumped my nose while vacuuming. Number 2, scraped my knee, same as the day as I bumped my nose. Number 3, I stubbed my toe. "Excellent," said Albert. "Perhaps you'd like to join me sometime." "If I ever did go somewhere," said Wallace, "it would have to be a place off list number 7. List number 7, places with funny names. Kathmandu, Mali, Timbuktu, Walla Walla, and Glockamorta." "Glockamorta? How about Tamara?" said Albert. Albert's just a loosey-goosey. He sounds like a fun guy. He goes and does and doesn't worry about things and doesn't worry about getting lost or getting hurt. "Well, to be fair," said Wallace, "there is one more list you should know about. Number 8, things I hate. Number 1, rain streaming down my glasses. Number 2, sand in my shoe. Number 3, being hot. Number 4, being cold. Number 5, being wet. And especially number 6, being lost." Well, it is quite possible that at least one of those things might happen if we went to Glockamora, Albert admitted. Wallace agreed to think about it anyway. Well, that night, the idea of an adventure made Wallace so nervous he couldn't even sleep. And when he finally dozed off, it was dawn. He just can't do something if it's not on his list. He sounds like a worrywart to me. I feel a little bit sorry for him, actually. Well, Wallace woke to the sound of rain plinking on his window. He thought that on such a dreary day, he might like to share some nice onion soup with Albert. He looked at his recipe. Onion soup, 3 onions, 2 cups of water, 1 dab of butter, a pinch of flour, and a dash of pepper. And he's got it right on his refrigerator. Wallace had only 2 onions. Well, perhaps Albert had one to spare. On his friend's door, he saw a note. "I knocked, but you didn't answer. Maybe you don't want to have an adventure after all. I'm off to Glockamora on my plane, the Rapid Rodent." So he left Wallace a note that said, "Hey, I'm going to Glockamora without you. I knocked on your door and you didn't answer." Wallace watched the sky grow darker. He heard the rumbling get louder. A major storm was heading their way. Torrents of water fell from the sky. Wallace had to warn Albert about the dangerous storm. And I'm thinking Albert might be the kind of guy that doesn't even matter if there's a storm. Wallace had to make his way to the airport before his friend took off. He unfolded his map and he waited for the bus. Before he knew it, he was drenched. And remember, what does he hate? to be cold and to be wet. His glasses were streaming with water, and his map was soggy. This was an adventure he sincerely hoped he would never have again. At the airport, the arrivals and departures board was the biggest list Wallace had ever seen. It was changing right in front of his eyes. He would have enjoyed just standing there and watching it flicker, but first he had to find Albert. And I guarantee you none of these things are on his list. He just had to do something spur of the moment, and look at him. He's doing it just to try to help his friend. Making a little bit of change, trying something new he hasn't had to try before. He raced from terminal to terminal. He got caught on the baggage belt and tumbled around and around with the suitcases. In Terminal 3, he was chased by a cat. Wallace rushed outside as a bus splashed water on him. Wallace decided to go back inside and climb up to the observation deck where he could see almost everything. So all of these things that are happening to him must just be torture. He never does anything that's not planned. And here's what he saw. No planes were taking off or landing, so perhaps his friend might be safe. Look at this storm. Lots of times at airports, if there's too much rain, wind, snow, or a big thunderstorm, they don't take off. The planes just sit there. Wallace was thrilled that his friend was safe. And then he noticed a sad-looking fellow, Albert! He told Albert about how his map got soggy, how he didn't have his rain goggles, and how he was bumped around in the luggage belt chased by a cat. Wallace, you had a real adventure, Albert exclaimed. But he didn't say much more since his own adventure on the Rapid Rodent had been canceled. Wallace remembered a list that he read in the newspaper, how to cheer up your pals. Number 1, listen to them. Number 2, buy them chocolate. And number 3, tickle their whiskers. But Albert was not heartened by these remedies. Wallace had one more idea. He took Albert to the baggage claim. They held on to each other and they rode around the conveyor belt until they were both dizzy, kind of like a ride at the fair. And Wallace thought of doing that to cheer up his friend. Wallace is making some changes here, his little personality. I think Albert had something to do with that. Well, they hopped onto a fancy piece of luggage that was loaded onto a trolley and led outside, and then it was heaved into a huge limousine. They watched the city lights whiz by. So now they're just in somebody's car. They don't even know where they're going. Big thing for Wallace. When the limousine stopped at a giant building on Park Avenue, Wallace whispered, "Let's go inside." Well, Wallace and Albert rode up the elevator to the 30th floor, stepped out onto the balcony, and gazed down at the whole city. "We're almost as high as the plane," said Albert. "I can see just as far. And it's not even bumpy. Thank you, Wallace." He took him on his own little adventure. "Oh, I wish I had a steaming bowl of onion soup," said Albert when they arrived home. Wallace was just about to tell Albert he needed 3 onions to make proper soup when he decided just instead to chop up the 2 onions he had and put them in the water. Then he sprinkled in some sugar, even though it wasn't on the recipe. As the soup simmered, Albert found Wallace's list, number 11. Funny words: rhinoceros, hippopotamus, and number 3 is kayak. "How about Cincinnati?" Albert suggested. "My Aunt Hattie lives in Cincinnati," said Wallace. "Do you really have an Aunt Hattie?" "Of course not," said Wallace. Telling jokes had never been on Wallace's list before. Onion soup with only 2 onions was delicious. So Wallace is learning to make some changes in his life, and it's turning out to be a good thing for him. Sometimes we just have to try something different that we're not used to. And sometimes it takes a good friend to help us be able to do that. When Albert went home, Wallace made a new list. My adventures, Number 13, 1, going to the airport in the rain. 2, getting lost. 3, being chased by a cat. 4, rolling around on the conveyor belt. 5, riding in a limousine. 6, being on Park Avenue balcony, that's in New York City. 7, making onion soup with only 2 onions instead of 3. And number 8, telling a joke. It was a long list. It was actually the longest list Wallace had ever written, but it was not nearly as good as list number 14, my best friend, number 1, Albert. That was his favorite list ever. So Wallace was a person who had to have everything just set, just perfect, just in a certain way every day. Albert was the kind of guy that flies by the seat of his pants like, let's go over here. Oh, let's take a plane and we'll go to a fun adventure. Oh, I'm not going to paint ducks. I'm going to paint airplanes. He was just willy-nilly with his decisions, and Wallace learned a little bit from him, and he decided he could let go of his lists a little bit. He still made them, but he put a few more joyful things on there. So sometimes a character comes into a story and causes our main character to make a change, and I think that's what happened with Albert. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as I liked reading it, and we will read another story next time we're together. I got to go pick out some new ones. Have a super great day. Miss you guys so much. Francis does too. And we will see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.